to call her turncoat Tulsi, right? Like, so a lot of people see Tulsi Gabbard and they call her Tulsi Gabbard. I like to call her turncoat Tulsi because Tulsi just turns with whatever opportunity is going to be best for her at that point in time. Now, I know we've made fun of some of the turncoat, choices that she made in the past, but this is actually not one to make fun of. This one that she has decided to turn on is about foreign policy. And it's one of the things that Tulsi Gabbard was known for. She was known for calling out the assault on this country, and she was calling for the war and the assault to end for years. But Tulsi has changed over the years. I want to take you back first to a moment when she was on The View. Now, this is years ago. I'm just going to show you the difference between Tulsi Gabbard then and now, night and day, and then you'll see what position she has now decided to turn on.
Yeah. Now, look, some of you have accused me of being a traitor to my country, a Russian asset, a Trojan horse, or a useful idiot, I think was the term that you used. Which basically means that I'm naive or lack intelligence to know what's going on. They use that. I want to let your viewers know exactly who I am. All right. Set the record straight. I am a patriot. I love our country. I am a strong and intelligent woman of color, and I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and the freedom of all Americans in this country. It was the attacks.
Let me pause for a second. Did everybody catch what she said when she described herself? Okay. Did everybody catch that? So I believe this is when Tulsi Gabbard was running for president during this time because Meghan McCain's there. So, this is like old school. Okay. Listen to the way she described herself.
Used, which basically means that I'm naive or lack intelligence to know what's going on. They use that. I want to let your viewers know exactly who I am. All right. Set the record straight. I am a patriot. I love our country. I am a strong and intelligent woman of color.
She's a strong and intelligent woman of color. You see how she changed? I told you, turncoat Tulsi. So she was a strong woman of color. Now she considers that type of framing woke and identity politics. And this wasn't like 10 years ago. This is a couple years ago. So let's continue.
And I have dedicated almost my entire adult life to protecting the safety, security, and the freedom of all Americans in this country. It was the attacks on 9/11.
We're getting a little bit far ahead of ourselves, but Franklin Graham finds you refreshing. He doesn't find me refreshing. Richard Spencer, the white nationalist leader, says he could vote for you.
Joy, this is why
you're on Tucker Carlson at least 10 times. Why don't you go on Chris Wallace's show?
This is why I'm here, because you and other people continue to spread these innuendos that have nothing to do with who I am.
Well, Hillary Clinton started it, and then you shot back at her, boy. You called her the queen of warmongers.
You doubled down, unfortunately, you doubled down on the baseless accusations that she made that strikes at the core of who I am. I'm a soldier. Because of the attacks on 9/11, I enlisted in the military to go after and defeat and destroy the evil that visited us on that day. I've served now for over 16 years, deployed twice to the Middle East during the height of the war, where every single day I saw firsthand the terribly high human cost. That's why I ran.
Okay, so that was Tulsi back then, right? And it was interesting that Joy brought up, but you came after Hillary Clinton. Remember what I told you, right? I had to play that for you just as a reminder. Yeah, she did come after Hillary Clinton. She basically said, like, no, I'm going to endorse Bernie Sanders. We don't need like a Hillary Clinton because of like the wars and all that type of thing. And that was seen as a betrayal against the Democratic Party, what Tulsi Gabbard did there. They saw that as you are betraying us, So she was supposed to be like the next Democrat darling that they were going to push along the way. It would have been as if Kamala Harris would have turned on Biden, like sharply turned, like it was that type of thing. So she was basically like their Kamala before Kamala. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now I want you to see what is happening with Tulsi Gabbard on foreign policy. Tulsi Gabbard for years has strongly condemned the attacks in Yemen, has been against it, and now she has flip-flopped on that. This is turncoat at its finest. Let's see the before and the after. 2018.
There are millions of Yemeni people who are on the brink of death from famine, disease, lack of access to food and water, basic medicine and healthcare. Thousands of Yemeni civilians have died in this genocidal war being waged by Saudi Arabia with support from the United States.
Absolutely outrageous that the United States has continued its support for years now for Saudi Arabia's genocidal war in Yemen that has killed thousands and thousands of innocent Yemeni people and caused mass starvation and suffering, a cholera epidemic, the worst humanitarian crisis in the world in Yemen.
Congress finally passed legislation to end U.S. support for Saudi Arabia's genocidal war in Yemen. Now this bill is sitting on President Trump's desk, awaiting his signature or veto. Now, he's already threatened to veto this bill, which just reveals how he cares more about what Saudi Arabia wants than what the American people want.
So that's 2019.
You saw Trump's rhetoric on the campaign trail about Saudi Arabia, against Saudi Arabia, against United States support for Saudi Arabia, calling them out for what they are, and now refusing to end U.S. military support for this genocidal war in Yemen that Saudi Arabia is waging, that's created the worst humanitarian crisis of our generation, because he says, well, he doesn't want to risk a multi-billion-dollar arms deal with Saudi Arabia. So, you know, you can see, at least in that respect, what he's really motivated by.
Let's pause. This is Tulsi Gabbard on Joe Rogan, right? Okay. And she's talking about Donald Trump. Of course, like when she ran for president, this was during Donald Trump's first presidency, right? So she was, again, very vocal about this. She went on to Joe Rogan to talk about it. As you guys can see, she was very vocal. She stood up in Congress and vented about this. It's interesting, though, that she decided to join alongside the very same president that she was criticizing around that particular, humanitarian crisis in Yemen. And that's who she decided to go and join, and look at what is happening to Yemen still now. That's why I call her turncoat Tulsi. That's why I call her an opportunist. And you'll see more here for yourself.
He would rather continue to support the senseless and devastating deaths of innocent people in Yemen and using our U.S. military, my brothers and sisters in the military, to do that, because he doesn't want to risk an arms deal with Saudi Arabia, a theocratic dictatorship that actually directly supports terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda. Trump's leadership, going back through his first term as president, he has been and remains very committed to combating and defeating the threat of Islamist terrorism. That not only
2025. You can already see even her body language is different, right? So see, now she's a part of the same club that she was criticizing, that was participating in the slaughter against the people in Yemen. But now she's a part of that same club. So notice the difference in the body language. Listen.
It affects the United States, the American people, our own safety and security, but it is affecting so many people in different parts of the world. We can see different terrorist groups, the Houthis in Yemen being one of them, that President Trump has redesignated after President Biden took them off of the terrorist list, redesignated them appropriately as a terrorist organization, and taking action where the previous administration failed to. Right. The Houthis have been disrupting maritime trade and passage for a very long time, and no serious effort has been taken to stop that disruption. Our country and other countries should not be in a position to have to make a decision to reroute commerce going through that area simply because of the Houthi threat that exists. So President Trump has taken decisive action for our own safety, security, and prosperity. And I know we'll look to other affected countries, as there are many who are impacted by this, to similarly take action.
That's Turncoat Tulsi, ladies and gentlemen. And nobody I know, like her and Bernie, probably the most vocal about the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. But once she became a part of the team, now all of a sudden that humanitarian crisis in Yemen is no longer an issue. Tulsi doesn't care about that anymore. Now Tulsi's just like, well, I'm on the team now. So yeah, Yemen is a threat. Now how they go from starvation, humanitarian crisis, we need to stop the slaughter, to they're a threat, when we've been the one that has been attacking them. We've been the one that was giving the arms to Saudi Arabia to allow Saudi Arabia to basically try to do a genocide in Yemen, which she was speaking out against, and she was right. But now she's part of the team. Now she's a part of the club. So do you see how people just cave, how they give in? And I want to show you this, right? It goes a little bit deeper. Shout out to antiwar.com, because a lot of people are attacking Tulsi for that. I'm telling you, it's not just me. People are really coming after her. This is from Dave DeCamp. Tulsi Gabbard wants other countries to join the U.S. in attacking Yemen. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has called for other countries to join the U.S. in attacking the Houthis in Yemen, a country she previously strongly opposed intervening in. The U.S. launched a major round of airstrikes against Yemen on Saturday and in the days that followed, killing at least 53 people, including women and children. Gabbard said that the U.S. wants countries that are more impacted by a disruption in the Red Sea shipping to get involved. So, once again, Turncoat Tulsi. Now, not only is she calling for the continuation of the U.S. to attack them, now she's asking other countries to join them and basically pile up on the Houthis. Now, if you're not familiar with the Houthis, if you're not familiar with Ansarullah, that government, that movement, watch the interview that I had with Professor Mohammed Marandi earlier today. Watch that interview where he explains a lot more about what they are, who they are, and why they're there. Let's all remember the Houthis, the reason why they implemented the blockade is because of the genocide in Gaza, because of the starvation as well. Remember, they stopped and then they ramped it back up to block again because they were starving the people again. Israel decided they were going to starve Gaza again. So Tulsi, in her action, is doing the bidding of Israel and the Zionist lobby. That's what people have to fully get here. So all of a sudden, everybody should be calling her out. Anybody who supported Tulsi, and by the way, I did not support Tulsi. Anyone who supported Tulsi should be calling this out to her face. This woman spoke at the Rage Against the War Machine rally. Do people remember? Do any of you in the chat, if you went to the Rage Against the War Machine rally in DC, tell me in the chat, say I went. If you watched it, tell me in the chat you watched it. I was there. This woman stood right in front of me at the Rage Against the War Machine rally. Stop these wars, end these wars, end the regime change wars, and we've got to stop doing this and stop doing that. Tulsi Gabbard did. I'm seeing some comments here. Okay, some of you watched it. Okay. Yeah, so some of you remember. You remember the Rage Against the War Machine rally, right? Okay, so, and this is why and I can see organizers, people who may have organized that event, for example, probably getting very angry because they picked her as a speaker. And then you make the organizers look foolish with your statements today. But she's not alone. And I want to show you something else here. I want to show you what Human Rights Watch said about Yemen. The latest rounds of Saudi UAE-led attacks target civilians. So this was in 2022, right? This was Yemen. Do you see this? That's what Yemen was look like. Yemen, they was really trying to just slaughter, destroy this place. They were trying to make Yemen uninhabitable, right? So I want to tell you what they said. Let me get to this part here. After 8 years of conflict that has turned life for Yemen civilians into a disaster zone, the situation only seems to get worse. That's coming from Lama, who is the executive Middle East and North Africa director of Human Rights Watch. For UN-backed peace negotiations to be successful, the results need to be durable, which requires placing justice for past atrocities at the core of any peace argument. So what you saw here, again, this was the Human Rights Watch, because that's how bad things were in Houthi. So look, I want to show you this. Notice they mentioned the Houthi forces, right? So I'm showing you this for a reason. The Houthis were around back then. The Houthis been around. I mean, you can't do this to these people and expect them just to live in like just rubble, like nothing, and just say, here, have at it. But she's not alone. Bernie Sanders also has just become a turncoat on Yemen. Look at this. In 2022, today I withdrew my consideration by the U.S. Senate, my war powers resolution, after Biden administration agreed to continue working with my office on ending the war in Yemen. So in 2022, for those who may not be aware, Biden apparently had some words with Bernie Sanders and told him not to bring that resolution to the floor. Bernie Sanders had a resolution to end the weapons and, you know, the attacks in Yemen, and called it a humanitarian crisis, which rightfully so. But Biden tapped him on the shoulder and told him, don't do it. Don't bring it to the floor. So that never happened, right? But he was one of the people like Tulsi that was calling it out. Now, and I want to bring this up as well. In 2024, Bernie Sanders backs U.S. attack on Yemen. So you see how he changed too, how he pivoted? On Sunday, the 100th day of the U.S.-Israeli war on Gaza, Bernie Sanders appeared on CNN's State of the Union program and declared his support for attacks by the U.S. and Britain on Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen. The ongoing attacks, which began on January 11th, mark a major escalation of the U.S.-led war in the Middle East and prefigure a direct attack by Washington on Iran. So he also flipped. The point is this. Even when it comes to foreign policy, I still expect you to do your job. When you call something a humanitarian crisis, Tulsi, and also Gabby, Bernie, when you call something a humanitarian crisis and you say that these people are starving, these people they have nothing left there, we have to stop this, we have to stop attacking these people. And then depending on whoever is giving you whatever opportunity so that you can continue your political career, you decide to flip on those people who are being killed. Nah, man, that's a problem. You're not doing your job. You're doing the bidding of Israel. You're doing the bidding of the donor class. You're doing the bidding of them. There's no way in hell. If you guys look on Google, there's no way in hell. And you Google pictures of Yemen, there's no way you can look at that and tell me that wasn't a humanitarian crisis. But here's Tulsi, flip-a-roo, flip, 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 flop, flop-a-roo. Tulsi Gabbard goes from endorsing Bernie Sanders in 2016 over Hillary Clinton, which was the right thing to do, and I still stand by that. She goes from that to running for president in the Democratic Party, then turning around and endorsing Joe Biden because we can't get Donald Trump. Let me endorse Joe. So you went from endorsing Bernie to endorsing Joe to then joining Donald Trump's administration. It's opportunity. It's disgusting. I told you guys about her for quite some time. And people, I remember the first time I criticized Tulsi Gabbard on the show. I remember some people in the chat were like, don't talk bad about Tulsi. That was 3 years ago. The first time I criticized Tulsi Gabbard. And you know what? I said, watch, you'll see. Now more people are starting to see that she's a turncoat. Such a shame, man. Such a shame. Oh my God. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.